Hello, everyone, and welcome to our presentation on exceptionalities. My name is Araceli Torres.
And I'm Alexander Rodriguez. Today we will be learning about intellectual disability and education.
Some of the items that we will be covering in this presentation are the characteristics of intellectual disability, what it means, any educational considerations and instructional modifications, the technology that's available to assist individuals with intellectual disabilities, other types of services provided, and post-school transitions.
What is intellectual disability? Well, it is defined as a person who has severe sub-average intellectual functioning, which basically means they test at an IQ of 70 or lower. They also usually have limitations in adaptive behavior. Adaptive behavior meaning, they have deficits in social skills, their language development, functional academics, and their self-help skills. And now we go to Araceli for the characteristics.
So some of the characteristics of individuals with intellectual disability are having trouble remembering things, trouble learning new things, concentrating, or even making decisions that affect their everyday life. There's different types of intellectual disabilities. There are different factors that cause intellectual disabilities, such as chromosomal abnormalities and environmental conditions. Some intellectual disabilities are Down syndrome, Fragile X syndrome, Prader-Willi syndrome, and fetal alcohol syndrome.
And now we'll go into the educational considerations for those children who are intellectually disabled. A child with intellectual disability doesn't enter the education system until the age of 3, and that's when they will be eligible to get free special education services by law. And they can stay into the education system up until 21 years of age. And next step would be for them to develop an individualized education program, which is just pretty much identifying, their needs in order to, and the goals that they need to be met in order to help ensure their success. Also, what needs to be identified is the level of support that they need, whether they need more support, less support. Each, child with intellectual disability, has different needs. And then once they get into the classroom, they will be able to learn the same general education lessons as their general education classmates by law. And one of the first steps into considering the educational needs of these students is by determining their level of support. And that's usually, done by, identifying the classroom demands, noting, the strengths and needs of the student, looking for their problem areas, where they're good at, and in order to brainstorm and finding ways to differentiate instruction in the classroom to ensure student progress and success. And in order to do this, we usually modify a lot of the instruction that is being done in the classroom. And that falls into instructional modification. We're going to talk about the 4 different strategies that can be used to help students with intellectual disability be able to learn successfully in school. So the first one is prompting systems. So this is an instructional strategy that is, pictured here on the slide that the boy is using. He has his computer. It has picture, it has video prompts and audio prompts, and that's basically what is being used in the lesson in order for the child to be able to work on the lesson and learn successfully independently. So they'll use those kinds of prompts in order to help. And then we'll go on to our next strategy, which is task analysis. So this is a strategy that is basically focused on a behavioral task, managing a behavioral task of a student. So the first step is, identifying the behavioral task that a student needs to change. And then the next step would be to, find out what steps that I need to take in order to get that student to change the way they do a certain task or behavior. And then I'll go ahead and gather the materials I need in order to do that, whether it be visual prompts, flashcards, verbal cues, signals. And then after that, I'll list all those steps, that I'm going to take in order, implement them in order to determine whether this child can manage that and change that behavior and task in order to accomplish that main goal. And now we're going to go into our next strategy, which is cooperative learning. So this is usually done in an inclusive setting, which means that the child who has intellectual disability will not get pulled out of the class. They will go ahead and get their special education services in their general education classroom. And they will be grouped with their general education classmates to work on the same assignment toward a common goal. This usually helps increase their chances of student success. It helps their social development skills. And it also helps general education students be able to gain a better understanding of intellectual disability and acceptance towards it. Our last strategy that we're going to talk about is scaffolding. So it is a cognitive approach to instruction. It is basically, assessing how a student, is able to process information and learn a certain assignment with the given supports, whether it be visual cues, audio, pictures, color coding, and then slowly and gradually removing one support at a time, in order to see if the student is still able to successfully, complete the assignment, without those supports. And the main goal is to have that student gain an understanding of the concept with no supports altogether.
So,
And now we go with Araceli services.
So we talked about instructional modifications. These are services that help the student learn the curriculum in the classroom. But there's other related services provided to students with intellectual disabilities. Some of these include transportation, which could be to and from school, and sometimes to doctor's appointments. Speech pathology to help them with language development. Physical therapy, which would help the students work their muscles to avoid atrophy depending on the severity of the disability. Occupational therapy, which is to help them tune their fine and large motor skills. And psychological services, which are for to develop social skills or help them tune their social skills. This could be a social worker or a psychologist. And I do just want to remind that these services would be included in their IEPs, and they are completely free of charge for the parents.
Thank you, Araceli. And now we're going to talk about, some of the assistive technology that is used in the classroom in order to manage, the students' academic success, their behavior success, and even with their life skills. Okay, so first we're going to talk about assistive technology in academics. So these are going to be some technology they're going to use in order to help them with their math, with their language arts, with social studies, science. We started with pictures along with printed text, graphic organizers, which could be, multiplication chart, a place value chart, pie charts, and also speech to text, which is basically a device, that's installed in the reading program in order to help, read out loud a passage or a math word problem to a student. This is typically used with students who have dyslexia or decoding problems. And then lastly, a calculator, usually used, for those students who do have those cognitive impairments, who don't have enough working memory or long-term memory to process those basic math skills, in order to help them succeed in math successfully. So our next one is behavior. So we have some technology to manage the behavior, which is visual schedules for organization. So if you want a student to succeed in a certain behavior, having that set routine would help. So visual schedules help with that. If a student's having problem with note taking, live scribe pen could be provided. And also, having audio and video or even tactile signals to help monitor students' behavior. And now we're going to go into life skills. Usually, there are some students with intellectual disability who are nonverbal. They don't have that ability to speak, so they will be provided a speech generating device. Nowadays, they're usually an app, on an iPad that's provided to them, and they'll be able to go ahead and, press buttons in order to generate a sentence or make words in order to help them speak and say what they want to say. And then, another strategy in order to help them with life skills is the same thing that we use for prompting systems, which is pictures, audio, or video, in order to help them with those basic skills.
Lastly, I want to touch base on post-school transitions. By law, post-school transitions or planning needs to start by age 16, the student's 16th birthday. At this time, they create an individualized transition plan that includes post-secondary goals for the student. Some of the goals include education, like if they're going to go to college, where, how, employment, finding a job, getting a job, or maintaining a job, and also independent living. If the student is able, how is the student going to be able to live independently? Since this is very important to everybody. So once again, thank you for listening to us. I hope you enjoy the presentation and have a good day.
Yes, thank you. Bye.